How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Welcome to another episode of Headcases, and today we have the incredible Alfredo Lewis joining us. He's a celebrity artist in the beauty industry, known for his remarkable career as a celebrity hairstylist, master colorist, brand ambassador, and a business executive. He's captivated audiences worldwide, teaching sold-out classes across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. As a specialist in balayage, blonding, and advanced color techniques, he has not only honed his craft, but built a massive following as a content creator with an impressive 3 million followers on social media. We'll dive into this journey, his insights, and the secrets behind his success in the ever-evolving beauty industry and social media game. So let's get into this week's head case with my newfound friend, Mr. Alfredo Lewis. Alfredo, my friend, it is such a good time to connect with you again. I mean, you and I have this history where we worked for companies and you were on one side and I was on the other, and we saw each other passing in the dark and so on, and never had a chance to have a really great conversation just between you and I. So I'm really, really excited about this and just wanted to say welcome to Headcases.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. When you asked me, I was like, it was the fastest yes I've said. You're right. We always think we're like passing ships in the night. I remember you love my scarf. You love my McQueen scarf.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you.
You remember that?
Well, you always. I do. Well, then I got to tell you a funny story because I've always been a McQueen fan. And you can tell my era is a little bit earlier than yours and other people, and so I have other movie history behind me as well. And Lori Zabel always teases me because I remember one time somebody asked me who was my favorite designer, and I said Steve McQueen. So she will not let me forget that. So, but in reality, McQueen is one of my favorite designers, and I remember that time. And I think the last time we had any real time together like this was on Beautycast when we did one of their gigs. So again, my friend, I've always been a huge admirer of you, and you've made such great inroads in so many different areas that most people don't get into. Like you've done the hair. I'm going to throw it out there again. Almost 2 million people following you on TikTok, and you've been in a corporate life. And I don't know if there's anything you haven't done, but can you just, for anybody who doesn't know you, and I don't know where the hell they've been in life if they don't. However, could you just give us like a quick overview on your hair story? How'd you get into it and so on?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that. That's so kind of you. Well, I've been doing hair for 31 years. So I obviously started when I was 3 years old, right? But I've been doing this a long time. The first half of my career was in salon. So I live in Los Angeles. So I worked in Beverly Hills back in the 90s, pre-social media. And I was one of those hairstylists that never went to a class, never went to a hair show, got booked and busy and thought I knew everything. And what happened to me was the burnout.
Right.
I got burnout. I had nothing to inspire me. And it went from just, gray retouch, highlight, they would book us back then every 30 minutes. And I was also young, really immature and wild. And I got, what some hairdressers do, not all, but I'm partying and all that. And I almost left the industry. And I always tell it was education that really saved my life. I got invited to a class and I thought, oh man, I don't want to go to that class. But I said yes for some reason. And I'll never forget that morning. It was a Monday morning. The hairstylist that we were going to go together, I said, oh, I'm not feeling well. And it was a girl. She said, oh, no. I'm picking you up. Get ready. You're going to this class. You promised me. I know you're not sick. So I begrudgingly went, and so lucky that I did, because that class changed my life.
Oh, wow.
It was a Brazilian blowout class, but it was back when it
Yeah.
first came out. So think like,
Well, and give a shout out. Do you remember the educator's name? I always love to
yeah,
say
she's no longer with us. Her name was
oh,
Nelly, and
oh,
she
sorry.
was so amazing, and I'll never forget her because she was so great. Whatever she did, the power of education. She
Yeah.
did it. She got me. She put me under her spell, and I wanted to buy everything they were selling that day. And I just was like, I want to make people feel how this amazing educator made me feel, and it just
Yeah.
completely changed the trajectory of my career. I went back to work a completely different person. Like it just, lit a fire under me. And I ended up moving salons. And the salon I moved to, lo and behold, it's fate, were the founders of Brazilian Blowout.
No
And
way.
they said, we think that you've got a great personality. We love your vibe. We need educators really bad. And it was exactly what I wanted. And of course I was nervous because it was so different for me. But
Yeah.
I started off teaching small classes. That's what a lot of people probably don't know about me. Things take time. I didn't just wake up one day with 2 million followers on TikTok. I started out teaching classes with 3 people there, but man, I acted like there was 3,000. I was so happy to be doing it, and I loved it. Cardboard table, a mirror cling behind me, and then it, I obviously it started to progress. Next thing you know, they asked me to do a road show, and there's 100 people there, and then they're like, "Hey, we want you to do." Back then, it was ISSE, right, in Long
Yep.
Beach. Now it's Premiere, and
Yep.
that's when I got into the platform artist life. But this was before I had any social media. I was pretty known in that genre of hair shows. I started to become known for that brand because I was kind of one of the lead educators that you'd see on stage. And back then,
Right.
they had one of
Yep.
the biggest booths at the show. Remember, like that
Yep.
giant booth, and doing Chicago, doing Orlando premiere, and then the next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, we want you to go to Australia." Like I ended up traveling the world through that brand. I went to every continent with them, and I taught Thailand, Hong Kong. I mean, I can think of almost every country you can think of. I did education for them, and I ended up. Then there was a controversy with them. Remember the formaldehyde controversy?
Yep. Yep.
And I just was, I don't know. I just said, I think you guys need a head of education. That's how I got into corporate. I said, I think the problem with this is everybody's using it, without going to classes, and you have educators, but you don't have like somebody overseeing the education and how it's being presented. And one educator's saying one thing and one's saying another. We really need to have that streamlined, message that we're sending everybody. And they gave me the job, and I pitched it with me and another educator because I was kind of, it was so new to me to be in the corporate world, but I don't know. I wanted to change. I've been doing hair for a long time. So I would go 1 week for 2 days and she would go the other week. And I really thrived. And she's amazing hairstylist. Her name is Michelle. But for her, it just wasn't for her. Like she felt very out of sorts and didn't enjoy it. And I would really thrive and be excited and show up with ideas. And so eventually they said, we want you to just do this every week. Come in 2 days a week, every week. And so I had to balance salon and corporate.
And what year was this?
This was 2009, I think.
Wow.
And I was with that brand for almost a decade, from educator to running education with them. I ran education for them until 2017.
Right.
So a long time. And I think when I left, we went from like 10 educators to 65 educators.
Wow.
And then I did the research and development for a bond builder called B3. It was like when Olaplex was like, I mean, it still is, right? But back when it first came out, it was like that. I always say there's these moments in our industry that change everything forever, like a product that comes out. And that was definitely the bond builder, moment.
Yep. Because everybody went after that. Everybody went down
when I
that
got
route.
into social media because everything had changed. Celebrity wasn't really pushing products anymore, and so I had to figure it out. My boss at the time said, CEO Mike Brady said, you have to get into this. Everybody's doing it. You don't have a social media, and everybody's, there's all these influencers. Back then you didn't know what they look like. It was just pictures and little short videos, if that. So I, again, begrudgingly, it's always when I pushed into discomfort, I think that I've had the most success. I didn't want to do social media, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I was one of those platform artists that's like, I don't want to do that. That's not for me. Like
that was a big crucial time. That was a crucial time in the education world.
It was.
Because there was this shift between, and I think there was a lot of, at the beginning, a lot of animosity in between the two.
And I started out, believe it or not, it's hard for people to understand, but I was like doing it, but like I didn't want to do it. I was like, okay, I'm going to find these people. I'm going to bring them into the brand, but I don't think we need it. And I had, remember, 65 platform artist educators that didn't want those, influencers coming into the brand. They wanted to be the ones on stage and be the ones talking. So it was definitely a very slippery slope, especially back then for all the brands. And I know even in, the Redken, L'Oreal brand, it was happening industry wide. It wasn't just, and so I started meeting these artists and I started realizing how talented they were. They weren't, obviously it was very different than those of us that were working with brands, because when you're working with a brand, as you know, there's ways that we need to speak about that product. There's claims that we need to stick to. There's things that, legally or whatever, we're representing the brand in a different way.
Right.
And I started to be refreshed by these artists that were so off the cuff. They were saying whatever they wanted. And for me, I'd be like, oh God, you can't say that about this product. I can't say that. But then I kind of started to warm up to it. And I was like, okay, how do I find the synergy in this? How do I find a balance where I let them be them, but I teach them a little bit more about like how this product actually works. So they're relaying the right message. And then they started asking me to do content with them. A lot of them. Hey, do this video. And they started tagging me. And all of a sudden I started gaining followers, like, without even trying. It was just all of a sudden I had 20,000 and 30,000 and 50,000. Now we're, 2018. And I started to collaborate with all these incredible artists. In the end, there was around 97 influencers with B3, from micro influencers to people with 500, 800,000 followers. And we would have retreats and I would bring them. I think we were one of the first brands besides Pulp Riot to bring influencers to a hair show and put them on stage, like as a platform artist. Man, it was fun. They'd come out and there'd be 200, 300 people around the booth, like crammed to see these, these artists, influencers on stage. And it was definitely a time, as you know, like it was a huge shift happening. I mean, you and I have been through so many shifts in the industry, but that was definitely one of them. And it definitely, again, it was another industry changing time for me, because that was my first exposure to social media, the power it could have, what I could do with that platform, how I could reach so many more people than at a hair show. You're reaching a lot of people, but then on that, it's a platform where you're able to reach people through a computer screen or through a phone.
And I wanted to stop you there just for a second, because I love where you're going with this. What I'm still intrigued with is because there's that part where I don't want to really do this, but I have to do it with the social media and all that. What was the hook? What was the thing? Is there something that you remember that you went, oh, it's pretty damn cool? What was the thing, if you can remember? Because I know there's lots of people out there. Let's face it, if you're a hairdresser out there now behind a chair, and if you're not doing social media, people, it's different. Clients are shopping you. You're not advertising for people. You're doing advertise to pick me, and it's different. So, but if there's something that was in there that people that might not like doing it as much as others, was there something that you could relay to them that went, this is the part? It was, whether it was the validation or whatever.
I'll tell you too quick. It was when I really had that moment. It was not even in this country. That's when I really realized, but it was going to the hair shows, and all of a sudden I would see it with the people I was working with, because they were before me. I was kind of like the next close to second generation, right? I would see everybody want to take pictures with them and line up and and it was that day when I was walking by myself at the hair show, and all of a sudden, like, these 5 girls come up to me and go, oh my God, are you Alfredo? Can we, we love your videos. Can we take a picture with you? And I was like, oh, wow, I'm starting to like have that same as all these people I'm working with, instead of overseeing them and being their boss, I'm like almost becoming one of them, but when I really noticed it is I went to Thailand to do a class, and everybody was so quiet. It's a different culture. And I thought they couldn't stand me. I thought they hated me. Like
Yeah.
nobody smiled or laughed. And I was teaching. I was like, oh God, I was so nervous. I was shaking. And I still to this day, sometimes get nervous on stage, believe it or not. But I was like, I don't think they like it. And at the end, they just rushed me. It was like 300 stylists, and they started like touching my shirt and taking pictures. Like they were just being polite. Like it's just a different culture when they don't, it's just, they don't raise their hand and get all, and I was like, wow, I'm in another country that we don't even share the same language, but hair is a universal language.
Yeah.
And they all knew my content and knew me. And it was like, they were so excited to meet me. And I remember getting really emotional, like realizing you can't reach people like that without social media. Like to be able to reach an entirely different country that speaks an entirely different language and a different culture. That was probably the moment I was like, wow, this is getting huge.
Yeah. You know, when and I think, that's while a lot of people in the world may not be traveling to Thailand or going to Japan. And I know it was similar in Japan, where you had to carry around a balloon with you so people could find you in the crowd so they could take pictures with you. But that, and I don't want to go the wrong path down when I'm talking about being validated. But if you think about it, just the stylist behind the chair, it's the same thing. It's that smile, that beam, that their eyes popping open when they see how great they look. That's that validation that you're getting, but you're getting it from a single person. But when you get on to the level that you're at, it's not about being ego. Look at how many people that I'm getting pictures taken with, but the validation that you get for the influence that they have and how you've helped transform their lives. I think that's the key in that.
I love where you're going with this. I know where you're going. I mean, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
To be honest. But in the beginning, the roller coaster is, a roller coaster goes up, 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 up.
Yeah.
And that's really all you see at first.
Yeah.
Is in the beginning it's like the honeymoon phase. And let's just be honest, as hairstylists, and it's taken me many years, maybe 25 years to understand this. There's so many amazing things. I can't imagine doing anything else. I love my job, but we do live for validation, and it starts in the salon. Every day you're doing clients and you're waiting for the smile at the end. You're waiting for the, I love it. You're the best. I can't go to anyone but you. You've got me for the rest of your, the things that we hear, or nowadays the text message. I haven't stopped getting compliments on my hair since I saw you. That's without social media. Then the downside of the roller coaster is the text of, my husband hates my hair and I can't look at myself in the mirror. I got home and it looks yellow to me. I think I see red. It can just take we're so hungry for that validation that when it goes in reverse, it can destroy us, which the hardest part of our job, I think, is taking criticism. Now take that with social media when it's millions of people possibly, or thousands or hundreds of thousands. It's the same thing. You can't believe either of it. You have to ground yourself. You can't believe all the validation and all the good, because then you're going to turn into I don't want to say it. Well, you said we can cuss it. You turn to an asshole, right? You can. And that's not fun to be around. But you also can't believe if somebody, you have to know how to ground yourself and look at things in a different way where you don't let it, defeat you or take you down, and kind of, you have to have a really level head. I think that transcends from salon to social media. It's just magnified on social media. Social media as a hairstylist to me is your salon life magnified times like
1,000.
If you have a follower account, and it's not about following, but I mean, if you have an audience, an engaged audience, the more it grows, the more magnified that feeling is of validation versus defeat, I guess. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. And because I always, I'm looking right now at I was watching CBS the other morning, and they were saying that in the U.S., which it didn't surprise me, but the level it was at surprised me. They were saying that different, and you hear this every year, with the happiest country in the world, I guess for the last, 10, 15 years, always been Finland. I just want to know, maybe it's the aquavit that they drink, or whatever, the herring that they eat. I must do that. I got to get on that diet. But this year, U.S. ranked, I think it was 28, the lowest they've ever ranked. And they said that the majority of it came from from the youth, the teenagers, the people that are just starting in their business.
Yeah.
They don't feel accomplished. They don't feel that the world's giving them what they need and whatnot. And I don't want to go, everybody was going, damn kids are done. I don't believe that. You're still a human being, and as a coach, I mean, because I know I'm going, I've got several thoughts going on here, so
Yeah.
just bear with me. But that point about how people are feeling right now, and as a coach, you and I have evolved. We've been through this thing, and my evolution has really taken me down the coaching road and the train the trainer road. And the more that I find when you're coaching people, if you could just make them see themselves and just be happy, they're a completely different person when they talk. And I think that mindset that a lot of people are in, where they're either down on themselves or their mental, that's what I'm looking for. It's just the mental being is taking a hit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad when, I mean, if you look at where we've evolved in our world and where we're at in our world right now, yes, there's all this crap going on. I don't want to go down that road, but
That's another
that's another podcast. But just if we could do something in our industry between us that you could just make people feel happy, even if it's just for like 10 minutes, and then push that to 20 and then 30 and then 40, just so people are more happy just with what we have than what this thing that we always feel we have to be.
I mean, I like what you said. I think when I look at the youth, it's definitely because, I'm on different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly really see it. I study these things. Like TikTok is obviously a lot of Gen Z, a lot of the younger generation,
Mm-hmm.
even though there's now everybody's on there, but it still is a majority, I would say, younger audience compared to Instagram, right? Which is more
Mm-hmm.
your Gen X millennial.
Yeah.
I think TikTok's probably younger millennial, if you're going to really compartmentalize it. And then you've got Facebook, right?
That's for
we're
me.
going like generations here of social media, right? Why? Yeah. So, I think, if you really just look at the world, and again, another podcast, but the things that have happened in the world from the pandemic, like you and I lived in a time where there was no social media, when we had to connect with people, when we had to leave the house to make friends or to talk. So it's really hard for us, I feel like, to judge a generation that grew up where they're connected to their phone and they don't know how to communicate. That's what I see.
Yeah.
I see that they don't know how to communicate, where we have that blessing of we know. I have not forgot what it's like to not have a phone or to not have a following or to not, and how I connected with people. So I think it's you're spot on with, like, even if it's for 10 minutes, it's how do we get them in the rooms though?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're so connected to that phone, and maybe they're in a suite. Also, I grew up in a salon culture. There was 40 people in my salon. I went to work and I had 40 friends, and maybe some that I wasn't that good of friends with, but still it was like a family. You got the family members you love,
family
the ones you don't
fights
get along
too.
with. It was the same thing. There was drama and love and laughter and all the things that you feel with people and that human connection. Now with the suites, they're in that room with the door closed. Not everybody, of course, there's but I think it's how do we get them to come out? And I see it in the youth when they do come to the class, when they do come to the show.
Yeah.
When I do have the opportunity to talk to them in person, I see them smile. I see them happy.
Yeah.
But I think some are isolating themselves. I think it's about not isolating yourselves, and how do we get them into the rooms?
Yeah. And I it's a spot on conversation that I love we're having right now, because I'll give you for instance. I was just doing a gig, doing a training program just a couple of weeks ago, and I know that the people that were in that room are of that generation that is so used to their phone, etc. And I the problem that I have with people right now is they're saying that they treat them like they're not human anymore, and they're just saying that they're that new generation. But they're human beings, and but they have a different mentality than, I'm going to say, me particularly, because I was raised when I was a kid, and even the first, half of my hairdressing career, there was no social media. Everything was talk. And then the platform has shifted, and they don't, like with us, we would go to a class, and if we didn't like it, your culture meant stay in the room. Stay in a room, don't say, or wait till a break and then maybe leave. But you would be respectful. And I think people think that kids aren't being respectful if they just leave your room. And what I tell people is, look, you're just not impacting them. They're in a swipe. I don't know what the hell way you go up and down,
their
left and
attention
right.
spans are different. They're
but we have
gratification.
to do the teachers of now. You just got to hit them with stuff faster, so that you impact them and draw attention to them. And I think that's where influencers and ambassadors that they've had for companies right now, because they've got that influence, they know how to get that to the people really immediately. And instead of trying to give one long segment, they give like 5 short ones, and that's what they grab. That's what they grab onto. And I think it's really, really, that's the lesson I think that people that have been educators really not need to get into right now.
No, I mean, I love Gen Z, and I'm not just saying that. Like, you have to know how to speak to. There's times where even on social media, somebody that's Gen Z will come at me a certain way, and at first I would be like, but if I have a conversation with them, like I comment back right away, they're like, oh, and it's like a totally different tone.
Give me an example.
It's just a
Give us
different
an
way.
Example.
Like maybe they'll come on and say something negative, like I think that was the wrong way to do it because, and it's like almost sounds angry, you know? And then rather than, shutting them down, not commenting, deleting it or whatever, I'll come back and say, you know what? I love thank you for your comment. The reason I did this for me is because, but there's other ways to get there. I love your idea. And they just want to be heard. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I just followed you. Thank you. Like they write back this beautiful, and I'm like, broke through. But I think it's just the way that they communicate. And from our generation, we take that as like, they're attacking me. It's literally the way, because if you think about it, they lived most of their life from a keyboard. So there's this safety there of typing whatever you want or whatever is in your mind, rather than thinking about how something sounds. And so I always say text messages can be so misconstrued too, right? Like somebody writes you a text message, you're like, you get angry, then you talk to them on the phone, you're like, oh, I totally misread that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how social media is. And for that generation, they're so in that. And I think it's something we forget.
Right.
And it's just the way that they absorb information is so different. So you just kind of have to learn. I love what you're saying. But then, when you and I if we're on stage, you got to realize there's all generations there. So how do you speak to everybody? That's another challenge.
Yeah. And I think that's, I guess, again, that's again, a whole nother comment that we can have for another one on how to grasp people in those environments. But the idea, first of all, I want to congratulate you because, in the research that I was doing on you, and even though I know of you, to me, when I do this, I always want to know a little bit more. And it was the first time, and I'm going to be, can I be just really, really honest? And you might hate me for this, but
can
I be really honest?
I can never hate you.
I don't do my own social media. I pay for people to do it because, they know more than I do. And I can help to create content, but they're the ones that put it all out there. So you're the master of this stuff and creating it. I just do what they tell me to do. That makes sense. And I can blame it on my age or my era or whatever. But I was like you, I love it when I do it, but I just don't like to do it until they tell me to do it. And then I go, that was kind of fun. Now, but I want to spin that around is what you do, and you and Philip particularly and I just call it the hair rescue series that you do.
Yeah.
There's brilliant stuff, man.
No, thank you.
It's brilliant. How did that, for anybody first of all, if somebody wants to watch them, where would they go? Because I want people to be able to watch these.
Well, on my TikTok, there's you can create playlists on TikTok. So I do have I think it says hair talk or hair disaster saves. It'd be easy to find. And I have them all in chronological order. I think we've done 15 now.
Wow.
So it's all, all the content. There's 55 because I do parts and I do
Yeah.
updates on these ladies and, how they're doing now. And I kind of keep up with them. So I have like a playlist so they could watch them there.
So tell me how is this something you went, oh, this is something we should do? Or was it a natural, what happened?
No, all the best things that happen are usually happy
Mm-hmm.
accidents, wouldn't you say? Um,
Yeah.
no, I was at a press event and I was on TikTok, as one is sometimes, and I started seeing this video, and first I didn't see the actual video of the girl who all her hair broke off in a shower. Her name's Steph. I saw hairdressers reacting and doing their commentary on the situation. Um, and it was very, let's just say, it wasn't like they were supporting her. It was almost like, this is why you need to go to the salon, and this is
Oh,
what she
yeah.
gets, and oh my God, making like kind of laughing, and the girl's like in tears, all her hair is just coming out,
Oh,
and it was like, I don't know, it just didn't feel good. It felt kind of judgy to me in that
yeah.
moment. And I was with another I actually wasn't with Philip. I was with this celebrity hairstylist named Alex Pardo, and he's an extension specialist. And we were at this Bellamy was that press event in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, we were just like, we should try to help her. We should make a video and offer. And we didn't know where she lived. We didn't know, much about her. And it was just a knee-jerk reaction. We both made a video on TikTok. Like, you can stitch. It's when you react to a
Right.
video. And all
Yeah.
the hairdressers were doing that, but they were doing it more like to say, oh, this is, she
Ah,
shouldn't have done this, and this is what she did wrong, and this is why this happened, and all, which is fine. It's a bit educational,
yeah.
but there was no solution for her. So
Right.
we said, hey, Steph, we saw your video. We know how traumatic this can be. We're so sorry this happened. We want to save you. If you're up for it, respond to this, and we'll find a way to get you out to Los Angeles and save your hair. Well, like 10 minutes later, she responded. I think that video got like 40 million views. It went crazy
Wow.
viral. And this is before we saved her hair. So
Yeah.
then it was like, oh shit.
Now I got to do
Now we
something.
have to do it. Like, what if we
Yeah.
bring her out? It was such
Wow.
a risk because, I'm represented by a lot of brands. And obviously I was with Kate and I pitched, without even knowing, like, is it going to work? I had just started working with them. I was just, I knew the product. I'd been using it a long time, but I had never used it on that compromised affair. So there was a lot of risk involved in that moment, because if we couldn't get the hair in a place to do it, or if we had her out and we couldn't finish, now we've got all these people waiting for it. So it was probably the most
Mm,
pressure I've ever felt, especially
wow.
at social media. We got her 2 weeks later. She had never been on a plane. She had been living out of her car and had just gotten an apartment. So she kind of had a following from her content about living in her car and what that was like with her boyfriend. And so she had, never done anything about her hair. That was like, that happened. Her video got 80 million views of the hair coming out. So
Ah,
when we got her to LA, I was so nervous. I barely slept that night. I don't think any of us slept. And she had never been around that many people. She had a lot of anxiety. So you talked about mental health. There was a lot going on in that appointment. We wanted to make sure that she felt safe. We wanted to make sure that she felt, confident throughout the process. And there were moments where she said, I got to stop. Like, she wasn't used to having a lot of people, even though people don't get it. They're like, but she went on social media and like videoed herself pulling out her
yeah.
hair. Yeah, that was a moment of trauma that she was going through. But like, to have all these hairdressers and people and makeup, and, it was something she had never experienced before. She's never been on a plane. She was really afraid to fly. Like, there was a lot of emotions there. And what we achieved that day, like just seeing her confidence, like, we were all so honestly shocked of ourselves that we were
Yeah.
able to get to the end result. And that video collectively, I don't even know, but I know it was in the hundreds of millions, like all, collectively, that story. And I thought it was a one and done. I really thought it was just one of those moments that, on social media that would be remembered. It was in papers. It got picked up by like press, like The Independent and Yahoo. And, it was all like,
Yeah.
and then, the next thing you know, we start getting tagged, especially Philip and I, in like all these videos on TikTok. Of the next one was a bride where she got a Japanese straightener and all of her hair broke off. It was only 2 weeks before her wedding. And, it just took off from there. Like, we kept doing them and they kept coming. And now it'll be 2 years in May since Steph. So in the
Yeah.
last 2 years, there's been 15 hair saves. Of course, I still do transformations and regular
Yeah.
hair on my social media, but as far as these kind of moments, and people love to see them, they get such great feedback. And I think the whole purpose of it is we wanted to see more kindness on social media
Yeah.
and in the
Yeah.
world. There's so much
Yeah.
judgment. There's so much negativity. Like, we wanted to do something that like uplifted our clients' spirits. And what you said about that, making somebody smile, even if it's for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And our goal was like to make a video that during that 90 seconds or 2 minutes makes people feel good, maybe makes them tear up, but not in a bad way, in a good way, and makes them
Yeah.
really feel something. And I think that we have, for the most part, achieved that with the series. But it
Yeah.
was really an accident.
Yeah. And I wrote down here, you're a good soul.
Oh, so are you.
Well, bless you for that. But I think that you actually reached out when thousands of people were making comments. Maybe not bad ones, but just whatever. You should go to
Commentary,
hairdressers and
we'll call it.
commentary. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you actually did something about it at great risk. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And here's the part that pisses me off is that when you get to a point in society, and I think this is probably a hierarchical thing, something to do with our past, that when somebody is climbing up and they're getting better and everybody's going, yes, go for it, you're there. And then you get to that pinnacle, that top, that you name it. And then people think that they just need to tear you down, I was watching those videos, and then I was just going through there, and I saw this thing that came up about you and this lady that said that I'll call her a lady because I think that's more appropriate right now.
Yes.
But can you take us through a little bit of, here you're riding this wave, people are coming up to you everywhere and saying, "Oh my God, I love what you do. Can I have my picture taken with you?" And then you have somebody that's trying to do their very best to I don't say tear you down, but to give bad comments. Can you just talk to that point? I bet we have something in common. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate paying for something that I'm not using. I hate working in a small, cramped box. Yet, I love working in a cool salon that impresses my clients, and I love the culture and synergy of a team while enjoying the freedom of being my own boss. You too? What if all that was available to you at the salon you rent from? Meet Artist on Go, a game-changing way to rent salon space. With Artist on Go, you only pay for the time you're behind the chair. You can choose a salon that fits your vibe, location, and amenities. With Artist on Go, you're a part of a stylist community, not hustling alone. Plus, you get to enjoy perks like clean towels and back bar supplies. Check out Artist on Go, built for stylists serious about their clients and growing their brand without the hassles of managing a space. Here's the kicker. You can save more than 50% on your rent. To find out more, go to bit.ly/artistongocb. That's bit.ly/artistongocb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, even on the videos of staff and stuff, there's always going to be negative comments. The more viral something goes, there can be, if I get a video on TikTok, I've had videos that have 40,000 comments. Imagine.
Yeah.
There can be 5,000 that are the meanest, most negative comments. And, it's overwhelmingly positive. It's overwhelmingly love.
Yeah.
But the more something is seen, the more negativity sometimes can come in. And that's a hard pill to swallow, if you will, or it's a hard thing to get used to. It's something now that I've spent a lot of time like grounding myself in. But if you're new to social media, I can understand how that could be extremely overwhelming and scare you away. And it probably has scared many away from continuing their journey on the platforms. But everything was going good. And I think you're right. We had done 8 successful, and the 9th one that I don't count in that 15 went awry. And people always ask me about it. And I've gotten to a point where it is a part of my story because sometimes like, oh, I don't want to talk about that again. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's a huge part of my story because it blew up so big, but in the opposite way, you know?
Yeah.
It was a client that came in. I saw her on, and I think again, you're right. It's the roller coaster. Everything was so positive. Imagine eight, every single one's a success. Every single one's, 10 million views. Everybody's loving it. Everybody's like, when's the next one? Everybody, it's just the brands love it. The hairstylists love it. You're going out to shows and everybody's like, I love the hair say that, it's such a moment. And so you get a little overconfident and you're like,
Yeah.
I got this. Like, I
Yeah.
like I was afraid of the first one, but I've done eight now. Like we're in this. We've got this. And we double booked. We did one, the eighth one, and the ninth one back to back. There's mistake number one, because these things take a lot out of us. You have no idea. It's like sometimes 14,
Yeah.
16 hours. It's like doing shoots, you know that. It
Yep. Yep.
to do two of these back to back, but again, it's that like you're in it. You're so excited and so inspired by it. You want to just keep going. And I would say that she didn't, we'll call her a lady. Absolutely. I don't think she had the best intentions from the get. But in truthfulness, it was one of the hardest ones, even though the hair was compromised. She'd done her own hair at home. This wasn't in salon, bleached it 5 times live, and everybody kept begging to stop, and all the hair started breaking off. We brought her out, had a great time, had no idea that there was anything wrong. But we did have conversations. The hair wasn't cooperating as much as the other eight.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
got it to as good as we, color corrective, anybody that's a hairstylist knows it can sometimes take multiple sessions. Not every time is
Yeah.
going to be perfect time one, depending on the situation. Like with Steph, we were able to, it was like a masterpiece, I think.
Yeah.
If I do say so myself, but it was a team effort, but day one. And there's some that you get there and you get to have that moment. With this one, there was a lot of things. I don't want to go too into it, but there was conversations had about extensions, and I can't keep up with it at home, so we're not going to do them. You and I know extensions can
Yep.
make, you know, change everything. It's like it's pre-colored hair and you can put it in there. So in the end, everything seemed fine, but she kept asking me, when are you going to post? When are you going to post? When are you going to post? Great conversations after that. She's home, and when I posted 5 minutes later, she made a video saying that she hated her hair, that I was rude to her, that making videos, just things that weren't true. Like I'm
Right.
fine, if you call me and are honest with me and come to me first and say, hey,
Yeah.
I would have loved to have had that opportunity to either fix it, or I would have paid for somebody near her
Yeah.
to go in and have her hair. Absolutely, I would have. That's who I am. I would have been like, oh, I didn't know that you didn't like it. Maybe, it happens. Like we talked about this with clients. They love it
Yep.
in the
Yep.
salon. They get home. My husband doesn't like it. That's bound to happen. It happens. I do redos all the time.
Yep.
It was more the way it was done intentionally to start a riot, to start a mob, to start a, huge thing. And the thing with social media, the bad side is people are going to believe what they're
Yes.
going to believe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no matter what you say or do, once it starts, it's really hard to get a hold of it. And I had never experienced anything like this, even though I've had the moments. It kind of was, I think there was a group of, our industry is so amazing and beautiful, but there are some times, like you said, once you get to a certain level, there's people that want to tear you down. And I
Yep.
think that it was an opportunity that not a lot, but people jumped on,
Right.
and the next thing you know, there was thousands, I'm not kidding, I'm probably of videos of some fellow hairdressers tearing me down, how awful the color is, expanding the color. Look at this spot. I can't even tell if some of it was doctored or not. Who knows? But everybody
Right.
was jumping on the bandwagon because every video they made about me was getting 300,000 views, 500,000 views.
Well, yeah,
I
that's
was
it's
on gossip.
opportunists.
I was on gossip pages. Like they're talking about Ariana Grande, and then they're like, let's talk about this hair drama going on TikTok. Like it was that big. Like it was,
Wow.
I was getting press reaching out to me, asking me for, my comment. And that was overwhelming. So it was the first time I experienced, because I'm a very positive person. And then a publication, I'll remain nameless, they got involved and they posted something really negative, like to come at me and to make fun of me. Basically, I felt like on their page with 2 million followers. And that was really hurtful to me because I think our industry is better than that. And all those things added up, was a lot. It was even for me, like I snapped, like my brain just couldn't handle And it was
I
hard for me
can't
to
even, I
not believe
can't
it.
even imagine.
Felt like everybody hated me and the entire industry turned against me. And, like social media, that's what in the moment, I'm talking about in that moment,
Yeah.
and I wasn't expecting it. So, I made one video at the time and it wasn't bad, but I was like, looking back, what I learned from it is like, I wish I could have waited maybe 48 hours to calm down. Because there were so many things I would have said 48 hours later that I didn't say. I kind of didn't, if I haven't really watched it again, but I just kind of went right on and said, we love this girl. We had a great time. It was really more like I'm confused, and it really just got worse and worse and worse. And then people took that and were doing reactions to that video, which made a whole. So I realized every time I talked about it, it was going to get bigger and bigger. The beautiful thing that happened was every brand I worked with reached out immediately. They were checking on me, offering support. In my mind, I'm like, all my brands are going to cancel me. And like, I just didn't know. It felt like cancel culture.
Yep.
It's not really, you think you're getting canceled, but you're really not getting canceled. And so like, I'd never experienced it before. You think everyone's going to cut you off. And like, there are things that happen. We see it. Like if something really, somebody didn't like their hair. It's a little different than some things maybe that you can be involved in that your career can be over. Anybody's career can be over. But for somebody just being unhappy with their hair, whether they're being honest about it or not, or doing it for attention or not, there are worse things in life. Like this too shall pass, right? In the moment, it felt so larger than life. And I just kept posting. Something told me, post a different video every day. Just keep posting, move on. And I didn't engage with it until 6 months later. And 6 months later, and what was funny is I realized social media is not real. Like I started going to events. I remember the first event I did was a salon-centric event, and it was a big event. There was like 500 to 800 hairdressers there or something. It was all the brands. Everybody was there, from the L'Oreal brands and the brands at salon-centric. And I was so afraid because it was my first public appearance. And I thought I was going to get booed off the stage. And when I went out on stage, they gave me a standing ovation. And the only reason they gave me a standing ovation, I know, is they were trying to tell me that they saw it and they support me. Like there's no, because I hadn't even spoken yet, and nobody else got a stand, and I say that with such humbleness and like such gratitude, but like literally almost every hairstylist stood up when I walked out, and like I had to like fight back the tears, because it was just I was so moved by it. And I went right into my class, right into my thing. But afterwards, so many people came up saying, "Hey, I saw that. And I just want you to know that was so not cool. And we support you. And, we think you're so talented, whatever. I've learned so much from you. You're the reason all the things, all that other side of it, right? All the positive things." And I realized in that moment that social media is just it's sometimes not real. Like sometimes the comments or people are hiding behind fake accounts or bot accounts. And it's just, you don't realize it in the moment because you're so caught up in it. But when I spoke about it 6 months later, I was really able to articulate the experience and I spoke about it. And I kept doing the hair saves. So like a month later, we did another one. So that was 8. And now we've done 15. So we've done, what is that? 7 more since.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we kept doing it. A lot of people thought we were going to stop. And I was like, no, you can't let one bad, you learn from it.
Yeah.
You buck up, you learn, you get stronger, and you keep going, you keep pushing through. I stopped counseling. I went to therapy. I mean, it was, what got me more was some of the very few, but all my brands were supportive, but some of the more branded or people that are leaders in the industry that kind of took advantage of that moment to push me down. I think we're better than that. Like I said, that was probably the most hurtful to me rather than people I don't know, people that are just on social media. But it definitely taught me a lot. It taught me to keep going. It definitely gave me a thicker skin. And then I did one, I posted about it a few times. The client, my manager saved all the videos. There was 32 videos that they made about me. One person tearing me apart. Imagine 32. And I kept them all, just, I don't watch them, but just in case I had them. And then recently there was a hairstylist. Her name's Goldie, and she's a young stylist. And she went through a similar thing where a client just tore her apart. And what's so interesting is everybody came to her, rallied behind her. She's a
Oh,
young
good,
stylist, and it
good.
was so different. Rather than tearing her down, and I love to see it. It made me so happy. Everybody made videos sticking up for her, supporting her. It was over a toner too. It was like,
Yeah,
come on, you're going to make a video. That's the world we live in right now, though. A
yeah,
client
yeah.
can just go on social media about something as simple as a toner that you could just go back and fix it, right? It's not a big deal. And they do the video crying in the car and it gets all the views and they get all the, attention. And it's something you have to be very careful about. I'll be transparent with you. I have my model sign NDAs
Oh,
now. Like I changed a
well,
lot it changed the way that I do things. But I did a series with Goldie. I ended up making a video about
good.
it for her. And I told everybody, hey, go follow this girl, Goldie. Like she deserves and I think now she's got like 50,000 followers on TikTok, and she ended up flying out from South Carolina and we did a collaboration together. I did her hair and I hung out with her, and
Uh,
we did a series. This is brings us to now about this subject. And of course, I was sharing my experience of what happened with my young lady, and she was sharing her experience. And I felt we did it very highbrow. We were just really talking about what we're talking about with what we learned from the experience, and kind of shared some things in hindsight, like looking back for me a year later and for her a couple months. But we posted it, and the client that I had started making videos again. This is just recently. And so luckily it shut down quick. I had to make a quick decision. I thought, do I have the right to share my experience? You're asking me about it, right?
yep,
Every time I do a podcast, people ask me about it. So this
yep,
girl chose to make 32 videos about me so that for years to come, I will be asked about this. For years to come, people will remember this. And so I decided, I did a 4-part series and I ended up privating all the videos because I thought sometimes you don't need to respond to everything. I
right.
thought, did I have the right to share my experience? Of course. Do I have the right to
Yeah,
talk to you about it? Now, of course I do. But she kind of came on, and also she started saying that she was getting death threats and all that. And I just thought, oh, stop. You
yeah,
can't make
yeah,
that many videos tearing somebody down to shreds and then play victim, like, because people are upset with you, about all the videos you made. So I just thought, sometimes it's good to be the bigger person. I thought I'm just going
yeah,
to private the videos and move on, because the real reason I did the hair saves is, like I said, I wanted to see more kindness on social media. I wanted to see more positivity. So sometimes
yeah,
I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. I'm gonna fall down. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna make a video about something that somebody may not like, or I may do something. Every action has a reaction, and you just have
yeah,
to ask yourself: is the action worth the reaction, or
yeah,
is it better to just move on and keep in that, on that trajectory of creating more positivity that we need so desperately, not only in the hair industry but in the world right now?
exactly.
And I think that's the learning. But I'm glad you asked me about it. It's been, ever since it happened a year. It's just been a year now. So it's only been a
Wow.
year. I've been doing hair 31 years. And it's such a small thing. It was one day of my life in 31 years of doing hair. But it was definitely a learning experience for me on social media. And I think it made me much stronger on
Yeah,
social media and really changed the way I do things in a very positive way. So I always try to look at the good that
yeah,
comes from the bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think, that it's like it was a moment, but wasn't a defining moment.
No. Well,
That's not
maybe.
who, well,
How, I mean, when I say defining, I mean, like, what I hear mostly when I'm in the real world and I meet hairstylists, like in person,
yeah,
like you and I go to so many events, is you inspired me by how you handled that situation.
yeah,
And that's the good part of it. No,
yeah,
I think that's what defines you. It's not about what happens. It's about how you handle yourself in that
yeah,
situation that
yeah,
matters, that defines you, you know?
yeah. It was
Yeah.
interesting. Especially when I think so many people can relate to when you talked about, in response, I didn't wait that 24 hours or that 48 hours before I could do it. And I don't want this to sound hokey, but I remember a teacher of mine and I would do that too. Somebody would send me an email, and then I'd start typing away. And then in the back of my mind, I would hear Blair say, okay, wait 40 hours, 48
Yeah.
hours or 24 hours. And then before you write the letter, just say, what would love say? And how would you phrase it? And if you were coming from a place of love, and maybe if you spun that whole story around, and let's just leave out about, it's if it's somebody's opportune and I'll get more views or whatever. But what would have happened to that whole scenario if that person just would have said, well, what would love say? Just wait till all that's over and then say, how would I respond to this? And what would I do if I was coming from a place of love?
Yeah.
And how would it have turned out? And because she said, and I don't want to make this about her or you, but just if people could just have a little bit more, come from a place of love in their life, and before you start to respond for everything.
I love it. No, I think it got to a place, being honest with you, where it was past that. Like, in truth, what she did wasn't okay. It wasn't with good intention. It wasn't honest. A lot of the things, that she said happened in the appointment just didn't happen, like 100%. But when you say come from love, I could have just been like, you know what? Okay. And I could have just done a quick video saying, oh, we're so sorry to hear this. How can we make it right? I want to do everything to make it right and make sure that you're happy. Like a client, like you would do to a client. Let's find you a salon and it's on me, rather than having, some other entity come in and get involved so that they could try to, I don't know what they were trying to do, but I could have been the one to do it and just let all that feeling I had go. But to your point, in the moment, I'd never experienced anything like that. So nobody really knows unless they're in it, how you're going to, but I think now, if it happened now, I can't say because I think I would be a lot calmer. I think I would, my response video wouldn't be showing text messages or trying to plead my case. It would just be a bit more, even though in my mind, privately, maybe I'd say a few other.
We're still human. We're human.
Let's address it, and be calm. But when you've never been through something like that, I don't think unless you're in it, it's really hard to not get swept up in the moment and just feel this need to respond or this need to speak. And sometimes no response is a response.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Or kindness is a response, It shocks people. And I do that sometimes on social media. Like somebody will come to you negative, and if you come back to them positive, they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. Well, it's you said it earlier. I mean, and I teach on this stuff that when you get objections or people are pissed off or something, if you just say thank you, it completely disarms them. They don't know. Like somebody says, "Well, Chris, you're just a complete asshole," and I would say, "Okay, thank you. Well, so can I just ask you why do you think I'm a complete asshole?" And then it brings them back into a conversation, It
does. And there's, especially on TikTok, all the big creators go through what I went through.
Yeah.
In some form or another, and some of them even worse than me and more often than me. I think it's unfortunately something that comes with the territory on that app. Sometimes when you're at a certain place. And that was one nice thing. A lot of big creators that I'd never met before did reach out to me during that time to say, hey, I've been through this. I promise you it's going to get better. It probably feels like you're drowning right now, but and that was really nice. And it wasn't even just in the beauty industry. It was like in different industries and different well-known like personalities on there. And that was really touching, I guess, and helped me.
Yeah. Well, and let's face it. I know you don't classify as yourself as a celebrity, but you are. Anybody that's got that kind of notoriety, and that might sound like a bad word, that much visibility, that you are a celebrity. Well, let's face it, if you got just 2 million people following you, that's I have 7, so I'm really impressed. But the point is that you are a celebrity, and once you get to a certain point, I think there's something in our society that feels that you've just got to turn them down. You look at the music industry, you look at the film industry, same thing.
It's something that nobody prepares you for. And I think the difference with me, like to use that word, it makes me uncomfortable a little bit, but I don't know why. Like I do know I'm a well-known personality, a well-known figure, public figure. But I think the reason it makes me like, is, like a Kim Kardashian, let's say, like, well, I'm trying to think like who's one of the biggest celebrities, Taylor Swift. They have like teams of like, you know, probably I don't even know how many people around them, like protecting them, doing their social media, lawyers, managers. And, I do have a manager, one person, but like I have no one. I'm a one person show. I'm the only person commenting. I'm the only person running my social media. So when something like that happens, not that it's not traumatic for them, I'm sure it is. They have kids and families, and I'm sure it affects their mental health as well. And they're also making, 100 million plus billion. They're billionaires, actually, both of them.
Yeah.
So like, it's so different. Somebody like myself, not that I don't have a great career, not that I'm so grateful for the opportunities, and not that I haven't done extremely well, but it is a different level where I don't have the same support system for something when something like that happens. So it can be a lot, but it's something I'm grateful for. For the most part, I have such a great community and so much love on social media, and I'm so grateful to everyone that follows me and engages. And I think when I did go through that, my community became stronger. I noticed like they kind of rally behind you, and it actually there's the good side of it. But it's hard to think of that word like celebrity,
Yeah. Well, especially if you got a couple of humble bones in your body, then you don't like to think of it that way, but you are.
You should stay. I think we should all try to stay humble.
I think that if we could, just to wrap that story up, is just that, like you said, it's a defining moment, but that negativity didn't define you, the way that you eventually responded to it. And that's what endeared everybody back. And I just want to say thank you for that, because I have no idea what that, I can't even imagine what that's like to go through. So I take my hat off to you. And like I said earlier, you're just a good soul. So I didn't deserve that.
Thank you.
We're at rapid fire, bud.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So here we go. What turns you on in the creative process?
What turns me on in the creative process? Honestly, I love a good inspo pick. I know some people don't like it, but I love a good inspo pick or picks.
Me too.
Even if they're all a little different, I don't freak out by that. I even like it more. If they give me 3 or 4 and it's in the same world, that shows me that they're open to interpretation, and that's their inspiration. Because an inspiration pick doesn't mean exactly that picture.
Yeah.
It means in that world or in that realm of possibility. And I love that. That always is
me too. Me too. We can be friends.
Yeah.
What stifles the creative process for you?
Oh gosh, this is gonna get me in trouble. And it's not like I love my brands, don't get me wrong. But sometimes if it's what can stifle me sometimes is when somebody, not necessarily a brand or entity or somebody, wants something so specific that I feel like I'm in a box and I can't go out of that box, and I have to color inside the lines. And sometimes it'll uninspire me, and I've got to really fight past that to do great work and to deliver, because I respect what they need. But it can sometimes be hard for me to get past that, if that makes sense. You don't have free reign to do, because we're creatives, we're artists.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's hard for me to be put in a box.
In life, what's the thing that you love the most?
My family, my husband, my dog, my immediate family, my parents, friends.
Yeah.
It's so important with how hard we work, and I'm on a plane all the time, to have like a really good support system. I have very small, outside of hair life, family and friend group. Yeah.
We can be friends. We can be friends. And what do you dislike the most about in life in general?
Meanness. I don't know. I don't like mean people. I don't like angry people. I don't like, honestly, lately, the world makes me sad. I think that there's a lot of hate and negativity in the world. But I try not to let it bring me down. And again, that's why I like to bring positivity, and the work I can do and the things that I can affect change in, I will do. Because I think the world could be a much nicer place.
Yeah. What do you love the most about our industry?
The community.
What
What I
do you
love
dislike?
most is like for what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I
Real,
jumped on
I
you.
mean, I think we're the only industry where something can happen. Somebody can be in trouble. Like we just saw the fires in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And our entire industry will rally around that person, whether they're a fan or not, whether they're with different brands, maybe they're with the biggest competitor. It doesn't matter. It's one of the
Yeah.
only industries I've seen where when we need to, we can put our differences aside, come together, and love each other in spite of everything.
Yeah.
I've never seen another industry like that.
And what do you dislike most about our industry?
That there can be some cattiness too on the other side of that. When we're not in trouble, when we're not, it's like it's a paradox, isn't it? But
Yeah.
there can be a lot of cattiness. There can be a lot of jealousy, and on many levels. I think that can happen in salon, like with your group. It can happen
Yeah.
in our world, and at the shows, or if you're an influencer working with brand, it can happen within brands for the teams. There can be kind of a lot of cattiness and not supporting each other and not celebrating each other's wins and
Yeah.
things because they're so busy comparing. And that's
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
A person that you admire the most?
Oh gosh. In the world or in the industry?
Just anybody. Doesn't.
Okay, I'm gonna say Sam Villa. And I know that I know,
Mr.
but
Villa.
just because what I admire is he's been in the industry so long and he's still up on stage working his butt off constantly. And every time I'm at a show, he will come up to not only me, I see him doing it with everybody. The biggest hug. How you doing? I love what you're doing right now. Keep it up. Keep doing it. And it's always such positivity. He can be on his way to do a class and he's late and it's in the hallway. He will stop. And it's just so rare. I think a lot of people could, I try to aspire to be the same, but it's not everybody's like that.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
Your most prized possession?
My health.
A person you wish you could meet?
Madonna. Well, I have met her, but
Wow.
but I was really young and I was messy. So I wish I could meet her again as myself because I'm a huge Madonna fan and I would have a much different conversation than I did in the 90s.
Something that people don't know about you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Something that people don't know about me. Oh gosh. Maybe they do or maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't know what they know and what they don't know. Something that people don't know about me is that, believe it or not, I can probably be very shy sometimes and nervous around people when I first meet them, even though you wouldn't think that from my online personality.
See, one more. We can be friends. A month off, where would you go? What would you do?
Oh my gosh, a month off. I would want to leave the United States. There's nothing against the United States, but if I had a whole month off and I could do anything, I want to go somewhere warm and beautiful. And I think it would be Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I love it there. I've been there many times and I love the people. I love the energy. I would just want to be on like Copacabana Beach, and laying out every day and just be in that environment.
Chilling. Love it.
Yeah.
Thing that terrifies you?
Getting old.
We can be friends because I can advise you on that.
I don't know. It shouldn't, but it does. I'm just being honest. It's like getting old to the point where I can't do what I do because what I do takes an extreme amount of endurance, and people don't realize like to travel like we do and to be on stage all day and the prep work and the models and the hair. It's a lot on our bodies. So my fear is like getting old that I feel like that I have difficulty doing all those things because I love it so much.
Yeah. Well, from doing it, and like I'm 75 now, so just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. That's what keeps you alive.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Favorite comfort food. Okay. Everybody does that, and then they say, I didn't have anything that made me say it. I just had to say the word.
My favorite comfort food is tacos,
Tacos. What kind?
carne asada.
Oh, me too. We're friends all the way. Okay. Something in the industry that you haven't done, but you still want to. I don't know what that would be, but.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a really tough one that you asked me. Maybe come out with a product line, but like
Oh,
not because I don't have anything. I have never come out with anything, not even like a tool or a brush or, anything. So I don't know.
yeah.
Not necessarily, I don't mean like a hair color line or anything, but create something that makes hairstylists' lives better behind the chair. And be creative about it, what it is.
Yeah. And if you had one do-over in your life, what would it be?
Well, I think we talked about it, didn't we?
Moving right along.
It would probably be that lady's hair that I did.
Yeah,
I'd probably,
the lady.
Probably that, or also, I'm going to be super candid. I was at behindthechair.com for a very short time, and I didn't leave on the best terms. And sometimes that was the lesson I learned. And it's not that there's a saying, don't burn bridges, because you never know when you're going to need to walk across it. And to be honest, I don't need to walk across the bridge, but still, if I could go back, I think I would have attempted to handle the quick departure with a little more grace.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Okay. This one. I'm really, I've got tomorrow. You couldn't do hair or anything to do with hair. What would you do?
I think I want to be an actor.
Oh,
and I'd be broke, but
yeah. What's a role you would want?
I don't want to be an actor. I would want something like, a role like you want me to pick like a movie that I want to be in like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh yeah, blood and gore and guts. Okay, now I got one more question for you, but when somebody wants to get a hold of you, where would they go? If they want to see your work, what would they do? How would they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm Alfredo_Lewis, Lewis on platforms. So I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I just started a YouTube channel. I've only been there a month and a half, and I've just been posting long form content, 15-minute videos, and it's been doing quite well. I'm just Alfredo Lewis Hair on YouTube. And then I do have a manager. It's in my bio. It's like, if you go into my link tree, you can get connected with my manager if you want me for events or something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. If you had one wish for industry, what would it be?
Right now in present day, what I see happening, this is an easy one because it's been on my mind lately. I think we're going through this another shift in the industry where I'm seeing brands go really big into celebrity. And I don't mean celebrity like it used to be pre-social media where, they're getting a write-up in Vogue or People magazine or something that they used a certain brand. But they're paying celebrities like these exuberant amounts of money to represent the brand. And I don't have a problem with that. I love pop culture, obviously. I love all that stuff. But what I would like to see is I feel like sometimes education suffers because of those decisions. And it's not one brand. I'm seeing it. It's a trend that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And they put less money into the hairstylist, less money into the artist, and they're going so heavy on consumer. And, remember, I have a business background, so I see the industry a little bit differently maybe than the hairstylist behind the chair. But I think the problem with that is forgetting that hairstylists in our industry are what puts these brands on the map. And without us being their cheerleaders, without us using their products, and without us talking about them to our clients, they wouldn't sell a single dollar. So I feel like they've went a little too far into this trend right now, and they need to bring it back home to us, to the community, to the hairstylists. That's just what I'm seeing lately.
Yeah.
So that's something I would like to change. And I think it will change. Everything has its, we talked about but I'm seeing it. I think the paradigm will come back over. But it's something I've been noticing lately that I'm like, no, let's, to me, education should be the foundation of every brand.
Yeah.
And education is the heartbeat. Education is the heartbeat. And it's something that took me half my career to learn. It's the heartbeat of the brand, and the hairstylists are the heartbeat of the brand. So, That's just something that I've noticed lately. And it's
Thank
usually
you.
people that we can't see or talk to that make those decisions.
Well, I'm sure that they're, with a name like yours, they're going to listen. So, Alfredo, I just want to one more time say, I just don't know why it's taken us so damn long to have a conversation between the two of us. And we have to promise each other that we're not going to wait another 20 years to have another conversation on this.
Please,
So
let's not. Anytime.
yeah.
Honored that
So
you had me, and I was so excited to hear from you. And hopefully we see each other at one of the upcoming shows and we can sit down and have a just chat.
yeah, and a glass
I
of
would love
something
that.
or other.
Yeah, sure. Deal.
All right. I just want to say thank you one more time, and it was a pleasure and honor, and I can't thank you enough for giving up your valuable time for hanging out with us on here.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks again for watching this episode, and if you liked what you heard, remember to smash that like or follow button, depending on your preferred platform, and make sure to share it with anyone you know that might be a fellow Headcase. Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media, with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.